Oi gente, eu sou a Gabriela Moya do criandonossarealidade.com.br e a palestra que vocês vão assistir agora é uma entrevista que eu e a Alana Trauczynski fizemos com Amit Goswami, que é o pai da física quântica. Na verdade, a entrevista foi conduzida pela Alana, ela que me convidou para estar presente nessa entrevista. Porque a gente fala de alguns fenômenos da física quântica, de criar nossa própria realidade, e como uma boa aluna do Amit, a Alana aplicou algumas práticas, algumas coisas na vida dela, e com base nisso ela começou a passar para outras pessoas, e eu sou uma das pessoas que segui, não o que ela falou, mas assim, eu segui o que ela trouxe, coloquei na minha vida, vi se fazia sentido, fez sentido, coloquei na prática, estou criando a minha realidade. Então por conta disso, essa manifestação aconteceu e a gente tem um encontro ali em três momentos diferentes, três situações diferentes, mas com a mesma essência de criar a mesma realidade. Então eu super agradeço a Alana por ter me convidado, por ter feito parte desse momento, dessa entrevista, que ela conduziu super bem. Eu acho que vocês vão gostar. A gente falou de várias coisas, sobre energia, sobre amor, sobre criar realidade, sobre manifestação, enfim, foi muito legal. Eu espero que vocês gostem, aproveitem e qualquer dúvida estamos por aí, tá bom? Um beijo!
Oi gente, eu sou a Alana Trauczynski, autora de Recalculando a Rota e criadora do programa Recalculando a Rota. E tô aqui hoje com o Amit Goswami e com a Gabriela Moya, que está criando um congresso online chamado Criando Nossa Realidade. E todo mundo, qualquer pessoa que estiver assistindo agora pode acessar no criandonossarealidade.com.br e também assinar minha newsletter no recalculandoarota.com.br para receber tudo isso que a gente está fazendo aqui agora. E hoje eu tô aqui com o Amit, que é autor de mais de 10 livros de física quântica, e a editora dele é a Goya, que é a mesma editora minha, então é um privilégio enorme poder entrevistar ele. Muito pouca gente consegue isso no Brasil e é muito legal poder ter esse privilégio e poder passar isso pra galera que me segue e poder, na verdade, levar esse trabalho adiante que impactou tanto a minha vida, né? Então a entrevista a gente vai fazer em inglês, mas espero que vocês, vai estar tudo legendado aí. Então agora, a partir de agora, eu vou começar a falar em inglês. So Amit, I was saying that your work hugely impacted my life. I've been to your workshop on 214, and Gabriela here is, let's say, the second generation of impact from your work, because after I've been to your workshop, I fully created my dream job, right? And also the life that I wanted, like fully. I wouldn't even be able to tell you today that I have a dream that hasn't been fulfilled yet, you know?
Fantastic. And this is what I like to hear.
Yeah, and that happened within like 2 years, you know, so it's amazing. It's really amazing what we can do when we apply those concepts in your life, in our lives, right?
Right.
So I brought Gabriela today as well, because she's creating an online congress that's called Creating Our Reality.
It is, indeed, congratulations.
I'm on the path.
Yeah. So she's already someone who's been impacted by my work, and what we're trying to prove here is that we're creating quantum leaps here, right?
And you're creating out of quantum empowerment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're both going to interview you today, and I wanted to thank you for that opportunity.
I'm delighted.
And I wanted to know a little bit, how was the workshop yesterday?
It went very well. This was a very good group. A group of 95 eager for empowerment, and participated very seriously, which is what one needs, intensity. And I tell you, my heart was totally touched by the sincerity of so many people wanting to transform. Now, there's a movement now from going from information society, information culture to a transformed culture. We need the transformation badly. Just as it happens to you, we have so much potentiality, we are wasting it. This is not the way human beings are supposed to live. This is the way machines live. And we got to come out of this very limited worldview of scientific materialism, and even more limited worldview of religions, of course, which already, going but not gone yet.
So we're being a machine, as you said, when we're being, let's say, fed by a belief system, right, that's running in that machine.
And what's worse is that, in that psychology, it's really a very cynical psychology. The people who are supporting this idea, they themselves don't even really believe that machine psychology, machine science is the right way to approach. They know better, but they deceive the people, because if you deceive the people and convince them to only live a pleasure-pain oriented, avoid the pain, go for pleasure-oriented lifestyle, what happens is that nobody, ordinary people just do not go towards exploring meaning, exploring values, exploring their potential, so that an elitism develops in society. The people who do, who are the elitist, the head of the hierarchy, and people who don't, they become the bottom of the hierarchy. And they don't even know how they got there, because they hear that everybody is just machine. If everybody was machine, why some machines prosper so much and some other machines don't?
Exactly.
They never ask that question.
Exactly, right. So of course there's a lot to be said about it, and you do a workshop, like a 3-day workshop about it. So I wanted to just, for people who are watching right now, how can we start? What would be the beginning of like changing the way you look at life? What are the first steps to apply quantum physics in your daily life and make it work in your life?
Well, there are 3 steps really. One is first of all, you have to change your thinking. So this is the most difficult part, because the education people get, of course, is machine-centered. The stuff that schools teach are things like completely prejudices, completely unsupported prejudices, but things like everything is made of matter, everything is made of elementary particles. 6-year-olds are taught this total lie. We don't know everything is made of elementary particles. Nobody has proven that thought is made of the brain. It's just a hypothesis. So this kind of thing being taught, people need to learn a lot of rethinking that quantum physics is forcing upon us. So that takes up much of the time. But once they learn how to think correctly, that's the empowerment. And then the idea of how to live it, namely psychological aspects of quantum psychology, the energetic aspect of it, the health aspect of it, the educational aspect of it, all that falls in place. And then the last 2 days we concentrate more on how to change the society. So really we do quantum thinking first, right thinking, and then quantum living, the inside and outside, how we feel inside and how we behave outside, and then we emphasize how to change society. But the emphasis always is that you would be better guide to change society if you yourself walk the talk. So we are into self-transformation as well as transforming the world. So quantum activism is a 2-way thing. You transform the world, but always simultaneously transform yourself.
Right. The world, the manifestation comes from what you transform within yourself.
Exactly. Manifestation comes from the transformed you, and then that will be a better manifestation.
Right. So could we say that in order to amplify the manifestation, we have to get ourselves transforming?
Amplify our experiences ourselves, yes.
Right. And what is the, let's say, people talked a lot about the power of attraction and all of that, right? That's where people got to know you and your work. But what I learned in your workshop that is not always talked about is about the self-consciousness of the universe, right? And if you're, let's say, what you wish is part of this evolution, it has a better chance of manifesting.
Yeah, the point is that the manifesting power does not reside in the ego, does not reside in the personal self that you feel. You have to go deeper. And you know, this is why dumbing down concepts does not really help. Religions tried that, and look at what they did to the world. Spiritual traditions always started with great masters like Jesus, who were saying wonderful things, but those things that were saying, to learn them, you really have to put some effort in it. Religion dumbed it down, but at what cost? Today, books like, Laws of Attraction and movies like The Secret, they also try to dumb it down, and it really does a disservice, because people try the dumbed down methods and it doesn't work and they lose heart. People really have to understand what Einstein used to say, that things can be simple, but not simpler than nature intended. Mm-hmm. You can only make things so simple, but never simpler than that. And the dumbing down people are always trying to make things simpler, because that's the demand of the publishers, that's the demand of the movie maker. But it's all wrong demand. Mm-hmm. Truth cannot be simplified to more than a certain extent. So yes, my ideas, my books are difficult. A little bit, as you know. Right. The workshop, indeed, people have to work hard to get it, but this is the right way. There is no compromise.
Right. That's why people like me exist, so I can translate your work into an easier way.
Yes,
right?
And not only that, you know the truth, and therefore you will never dumb it down beyond what is possible to simplify. Yes, to this extent it's possible, but beyond that, you try to do it, it don't work.
Right.
Yeah. I've got a question. What, according to the quantum physics, what's energy?
Okay, so whenever we say energy, it's not physical energy, because we are talking about the energy that we feel.
Okay.
I mean, human beings, when they talk about that experience, they don't experience physical energy in the way physicists talk about. What they experience, they're talking about their feeling, vital energy.
Okay.
So that is a very important distinction. And people should not be so apologetic because they don't use the word vital, because energy, after all, was a concept which was used long before physicists co-opted that word to mean physical energy.
I see.
Energy, the word has been since 18th century, the word appears in William Blake's poems, who said energy is eternal delight. But physics has not used the word energy until 1837. 19th century. So, the physicists did a trick on us, the rest of us. They took away the very, very powerful word, and now it's very confusing. Yeah. People constantly ask me, what energy are you talking about? I have to say, no, not physical energy, non-physical energy, connected with life, connected with vitality.
Mm-hmm. But if we relate to consciousness?
Yes, it relates to consciousness, because consciousness is the source of all our experiences. Thinking, feeling, sensing, intuiting, these are the 4 kinds of experiences. And consciousness experiences them all, starting with possibility. When consciousness chooses, the possibilities transform into experiences.
So we can manifestate this experience
with
our intention, right?
We can manifest this experience because we are conscious.
And with this intention of consciousness, can we build, create, and choose our own reality? That's
exactly. If we can tune in to this causal consciousness, what the causal power is, if we are inquisitive enough, if we are creative enough, if we are a little bit less conventional than most people, you have to be a little bit of a rebel. If you're always doing the same thing, you miss it. That's the ego. But if you're a little creative, then you will ask yourself, can I manifest something different? Can I manifest something that will satisfy? Can I manifest something that is meaningful? Then is where you go to manifest new stuff, powerful stuff, and become powerful yourself. You have manifested the power required to explore meaning and value in your life. Most people don't care. They think that manifesting means manifesting a car for yourself, manifesting a nice house for yourself. No, for that we don't need the power of consciousness. The power of consciousness is for manifesting happiness, manifesting joy, manifesting creativity, manifesting creative products, manifesting meaning and value, meaning and purpose.
And that is true abundance, right?
That is true abundance.
The abundance that people talk so much about is an effect, right, of that.
Of that, exactly, of that exploration.
If that's your main focus, then
that's not abundance.
That's not abundance, right?
Yeah, if material stuff is your main focus, you are only touching a small fragment of abundance. Mm-hmm. Abundance that is necessary, but not sufficient to bring you satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. So, but would you say that, let's say, your work had a huge impact on my life because I had a lot of previous work within myself, right, of like self-awareness and all of that. So would you say that quantum physics principles can be applied after you've worked on yourself, or would a beginner be able to apply it?
It depends on how curious the beginner is. The important thing is that you are curious. Important thing is that you don't mind being a rebel. Important thing is that you don't want to think like conventional people. You're not happy with the conventional stuff of life. Mm-hmm. Pleasure-oriented life, avoiding pain and getting towards pleasure. That is important. After that, if you have worked with a little bit of investigation, exploration, that's only good. Mm-hmm. So for you, it was very easy.
I was ready.
You were ready.
I was ready.
If others are not ready, they will take a workshop, they will get intrigued, they will come back, they will take another workshop, they will read a few books. It takes a little longer. Mm. But it certainly is doable for everybody.
Right, because you said the first step is changing your thought, right?
Exactly.
And people have a lot of negative thoughts.
Exactly.
And they keep, even if you go to the workshop and this world opens up to you and you're like, wow, there's a whole new way of looking at life. Maybe a week later, all the negative thoughts start coming back.
Drown out the enthusiasm because you have not grounded yourself with the concepts, with the new thinking very well. So you need a revision of it. You need more enthusiasm, more empowerment, more inspiration. Actually, my job is quite simple, really, as you know very well. I didn't do anything. I just kindled what was inside of you. Exactly. I helped kindling it. And that's what has to happen. Some people do it immediately because you are ready. Some people take a little longer. But everybody will get it because it's ultimately, it resonates with us because we are it. This is describing our own being. So there is no problem except that, the worldview, the society, the culture, the conditioning has put a layer of ignorance on our being. So we have to at least partially remove the layer. The layer is now so thick that you really have to work hard, a little bit hard to remove it.
Mm-hmm. And maybe because people haven't had experience about it yet, right? Because I did not believe what you said, just like out of the blue. I set an hypothesis. Let's say I'm going to experience it in my life, and I'm not trusting Amit yet. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to experience it in my life, and maybe I'll trust him.
And that, by the way, is the right approach. We constantly emphasize that don't take anybody's word for it. We do not want to make quantum activism into a dogma. Mm-hmm. Because quantum physics is anything but a dogma. Quantum physics says everything is possibility and we choose. Mm-hmm. We have the freedom, we have the creativity. Therefore we don't need to ever follow any dogma. We can discover directly our own truth. Mm-hmm. And quantum physics emphasizes that. That is the teaching. The teaching is be creative. Think quantum, be creative. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah. The teacher's role is to inspire, teacher's role is to point out that there is a science and you can understand it in a didactic way, You have to use some intuitions at some point. You have to do it with love, with passion. These things the teachers can't say.
Yeah, so I was like, well, I'm going to do this for a certain time in my life and start thinking that way and really believe in it. And let's see, right? If it's going to manifest. And then, like, because before I was someone, I was always very rational, and I never believed anything just because someone said it was truth. So I was like, I'm going to do this for a certain amount of time, and let's see if it's going to work. But before, I used to think like, I believe what I see, right? And you told me, believe and then you see, right? And that changed my mind. So I experimented with it for a while, and one after the other, all of my dreams started coming to life.
Yes, that's what happens. Precisely. So you have to look at your beliefs, you have to really verify them, just as you did. And skepticism is good. At the same time, you have to feel the inspiration, you have to feel the energy.
Yeah, I did.
And you did. And that is the key. That is the key. You have to do it passionately, you have to do it with sincerity, you have to do it with authenticity. Then you get everything. And that's what happened to you.
Nice.
So you think that it's important to be with people who we like get inspiration, like be together and get this energy of these people, and then do you think that gets easier to be there?
Yes, and this is why I'm working very hard to produce an educational system that gives up on just providing information to people, which is what current system does.
Yeah.
Instead, work on transformation of people. So we can help. We can, with a good educational system, transformational educational system, we can inspire a whole generation of people not to be so pleasure-plane oriented people. Instead, change the world, because the world has some urgent problems that need to be solved. It has been tried to talk about world's problems, but everybody knows them. Our economy does not work, our politics does not work, our education does not work. In addition, we have this global climate change and terrorism that nobody has any idea how to stop and how to change. So we really have our work cut out for us. And quantum worldview is saying that the worldview that we have been using, the two, religious and the scientific materialism, are both incomplete. We need to complete them by integrating them, and the key of integration is right here. It's already here. Quantum worldview is already here. And that gives us all the solutions which already are here. I'm not saying we have all the solutions to the end of it, but we have all the solutions at the beginning of it. So let's begin the new journey. What are we waiting for? We will only be better for it.
Yeah, that's great.
So people are always thinking that they have to have something in order to do something, in order to be someone, right? Would you say that it's the other way around?
Yes, they have to be something, exactly. They have to be something, then they can have something. It's very important to recognize that trying to have something without being is a very, very short-changed approach. We short-change ourselves trying to do that, and this is why things don't work. You cannot change another person, or you cannot achieve something if you have not touched the deeper level of being, which enables you to create. If you try to do without being, then what happens? You are creating the same shit that you have created before. So we have messed it up, let's face it. If we try to do with the same shit, then we'll mess it up more. Instead, what we have to do is to really change ourselves. Okay?
So I wanted you to talk a little bit about the doobie-doobie-doo concept.
Absolutely.
That you have to,
so then
it's not only thinking different, you have to act on it.
Yes,
right?
And this is the right time to do it, because you mentioned being. So as soon as you get set that being leads us to a consciousness which is deeper, which is potent of new causality, new causal power, creativity, then we recognize that this do-do-do approach that we are using is wrong, is incomplete. So we realize that no, it has to be a combination of do and be. And it turns out that creativity researchers who have been aware of this creativity, this phenomenon, for about 100 years, they already have, through the study of empirical study of many creative research, creative people, that creative people follow a process. And that process consists of do and be, what we call preparation and then relaxation. So this alternative preparation, relaxation, this is what I call do, we do, we do.
Nice. Yeah.
Then insight, and then only it can manifest. Insight is also a quantum leap. It's another name for the insight. It's sudden, and again, that quantum worldview comes in and gives us the right idea for explaining the creative process.
So would you say that what we're doing here, like consecutive impacts of each person's work, would that be a quantum leap?
Well, each person's work with this creative process, yes, that each person taking quantum leap. And the beauty of it is that when you take the quantum leap, then you have your own take on the phenomenon. You have your own opinion. I call it individuation. You have become an individual. Before you were following other people's opinion, and look at where that got us. Because those are wrong opinions, they have not worked. So how can following those same opinions will work again? This is just absolutely incredible what we keep on doing. Religions have not worked. This scientific materialism has only taken us through the garden path of failure. So why do we continue trusting them? We cannot trust them. So we go and investigate consciousness and those things that we call archetype, like love, beauty, justice, truth, abundance, ourselves, with creativity. When we discover them, we'll have the new ways needed to change society. That's the process. That's what we want to do. And then we become also in the process an individual, a unique individual, not like the homogeneous dumb machines that science thinks that we are.
Nice.
The materialist side.
I said this the other day, I just wanted to see with you if that's right, what I said. Would you say that a higher level of consciousness manifests a better life?
Yes, absolutely. Higher level of consciousness manifests a better life and is essential to live a better life. Because if you are a lower level of consciousness, you cannot even live them really. Even if somebody told you that love exists, how could you live love if your concept of love is that it's just brain chemicals? You've got to get a higher level of conscious thinking, higher level of conscious living before you can really enjoy the real niceties of what has been offered by nature. You know, I mean, this is the sadness in me. A little bit of sadness sometimes show up, and this comes from that only people knew what their potentiality is. It's so fantastic, and they settle for ordinary things like pleasure. Agreed that pleasure is not to be undermined completely. It is nice compared to pain. So people are right, avoiding pain and going for pleasure. But they should not stop with pleasure, because there are things like joy and things like happiness. You know, all they have to, okay, look, there is no sexual pleasure in childhood. But would you ever denigrate the childhood saying, oh, childhood is bad because there was no sexual pleasure, which is our greatest pleasure? Pleasure-oriented wise, right? But in childhood, we did not have sex and we were so happy. We didn't need it, right? Totally. So that is the clue. That is the clue. That no, we have other things. We had joy when we were children. We had happiness. And those joy and happiness doesn't go away. They're available to every human being. This is the part we miss.
Yeah, I tell people who are on my online course that, like, if they could see themselves the way I see them, because I started seeing that potential in everybody, right? If they could see themselves the way I see them, man, it would be solved tomorrow, right? Like, because once we have the experience, it starts being so obvious to you, like my own power and their power. You know, I wish I could just blink and say, wake up, you know.
We recognize our own power, we can recognize the others.
Yeah.
I have another question, because we told our audience that we're going to be here interviewing you, and a few of them asked about time relativity. Could you discuss a little bit more about this, like
Does it time exist?
It's really tough to understand that, right? It's not an easy question.
No, not really. Not really. I mean, these are mythologies. When Einstein first discovered it, of course, it was hard to understand. But now after almost more than a century of relativity, we shouldn't say that it's still difficult to understand. But again, you cannot dumb it down more than it is simple, but you cannot make it simpler than it is. So you still have to get the idea that usually we conceive of time as absolute, and you still have to get the idea that we are used to thinking that everything happens in time. So Einstein changed that, and the concept now is that no, time is relative. Relative meaning that it depends on movement. Before, the thought was that movement occurs in time, and time is as an absolute thing. You cannot change the way rate of time itself is. But now the idea is that no, time depends on movement. If a body is moving very fast, then in that body's reference point, if I ride that body, then my clock will slow down, including my own body clock. So I'll age slower.
Okay.
So we can imagine things like astronauts going out very fast and not aging at all, and coming back and they find their cousins have aged and become old and they are young. That kind of thing. It's very science fictiony, but it's all very true because we have verified it experimentally. We have sent clocks on spaceships which go pretty fast enough to make a little difference, and when the clock comes back, we find that yes, indeed, it's slower than clocks that were left on Earth.
Wow. Yeah, there's a wide field to talk about it.
And it's also relevant to quantum physics because we see that time and space, they really are concepts of the space-time domain of reality. In quantum physics, you have discovered a domain of reality which is outside of space and time. So there, it is really timeless. Space and time don't exist in this form anymore. So we have here, time is relative. There, it's timeless. Because it's timeless, we can have signal-less communications. Here, every communication takes time because time comes in this domain of reality. But in that domain of reality, communication is instantaneous, taking no time, because there is no time in that domain of reality. So this kind of thing we now have discovered. So here's relativity that holds in space-time domain, and there is quantum domain of reality where relativity doesn't hold, where there is no space, there is no time, and it's a beautiful discovery. We call it non-locality, instantaneous connection between people.
Yeah.
Telepathy is an example of it.
There's no time.
There's no time.
Real?
Well, in that domain, if we know the access to that domain, it's really real. There is no time. But because we are tired, we live in this domain because the nature of the human body, the human brain. But if we run to go outside of that, and we can in creative experiences, we can in out-of-the-body experiences, we can when we are, a few people are fortunate enough to die.
Everything that we can, it's real, right?
Yes, everything that we can do is real. People today die and then they are brought back by cardiac surgery. In between, no time. And they report things that they experience. So there is consciousness even when the brain dies.
Right.
We now have proof of these things. Okay? It's all scientific.
The world doesn't know about it, right? We should have quantum physics in the first grade, right?
We should, indeed. The only problem, of course, is that it is too sophisticated for a child to understand.
Well, the way I understood that is that if we're talking about being, being is always being, right? So it's always being.
So we could prepare.
How can you be before, be yesterday, and be tomorrow? No, there is no such thing. You're just being.
Right. Being has to be timeless. Very good. So, these things we could teach, at least in high school. And we could keep from teaching very limiting thoughts like everything is made of matter. If we just keep materialism out of the elementary school and make our curriculum in high school a little bit more philosophical, then we can introduce quantum physics right in the first year of college. And that would be a very great improvement of the educational system.
Cool. So we heard you're doing an online course now, and so people who cannot come to your workshop or live in other parts of Brazil will be able to see you online now?
Yes, I think that this is a very good step we are taking. We want to make it more available. Also, this gives us a more complete rendition of a certification that we have begun. People can take our quantum activism course and take the online course, which will be prerequisite to a later teachers training course, because we want to have many more teachers. You know, Brazil is a place of 200 million people, and we have created only 700 quantum activists. Yeah. We need many more teachers.
Yeah, it's gonna
so we now really want to create quantum activism teachers.
Nice.
Look,
I'm in. We're in.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
I just have one question. Just like a curiosity. Is there any question that you couldn't find an answer?
Oh, there are many. and they are all futuristic. For example, you know, one question that I work on a lot, you know, which is the concept of these archetypes that we talked about. Love, for example. Is it possible to embody love so completely that you cannot not love? You know,
wow.
I know how to love, but I must say that it's not as universal. You know, I know if I love you, I can love you unconditionally. But I must say that I cannot say that I embody love so much that I can love everybody. And that embodiment of love, I'm very curious about how to embody an archetype like love. Because what's the advantage? I had an experience like that once. I was doing a very hard spiritual practice for 7 days, and at the end of the 7 days I had a wonderful experience, but the experience was pale in comparison to the 2 days that followed, because in those 2 days I loved everything. I could not love any person.
Wow.
And that experience I never had before, and that experience I never had after. So I'm very curious what I need to do in order to have that embodiment of love.
To remain like that. Right?
Remain like that, yes.
Maybe we can, our whole lives is to get just a few seconds of that, right? Sometimes. So nice.
Yeah.
So you can love everyone until the first person is nasty to you, right?
It could not be nasty to me. For those 2 days, it could not be nasty
exactly.
to me. That is just such
amazing.
a wonderful experience.
But you could not figure out what happened to you.
I could not figure it out. I have thought and thought, you know, what kind of brain state did I create for those 2 days, and why did that disappear? These are questions that keeps me awake sometimes.
For a next book then.
No, perhaps, even, if it is, I don't know.
If it's on this life.
I hope I find the answer in this life. But
we'll be waiting.
We'll
be trying to figure that out too.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Amit. It was so nice
welcome.
to be with you.
Very welcome.
It was very lot of fun.
Welcome.
Namastê.
Thank you very much.
Gente, para ficar sabendo de tudo que é do curso online do Amit, de tudo mais que ele estiver fazendo, assinem a newsletter no recalculandoarota.com.br e no criandonossarealidade.com.br. Um beijo para todo mundo e até a próxima entrevista.